And at this time, I'm going to have Greg Kozak, our Chief Information Officer, provide the information technology assessment. And I just want to take a moment to recognize the breadth of work that Greg has done. The full report that he will represent to you is located in the board portal. It is 180 some pages long, so we thought we'd save trees and place it electronically there. But his presentation is an executive summary of that document, but I think is a critically important presentation for all of you so that you can understand how we're trying to move forward our IT operations in alignment with our student success efforts.
Great, thank you, Lori. Okay, so what you're going to hear tonight is a summary of that 165-page report. It is available to you if you want to read it. Again, you can get it printed out if you ask Carol or Karen, as Dr. Sutton mentioned. This assessment is going to look a little bit different than other strategies you may have seen coming from IT in the past in this difference. When I looked at those past strategies, they were typically an inside-out view of technology. Here's technology, and here's ways in which we can use it. My vision is to use an outside-in version, where we begin and end with a perspective on student success. And then we figure out how technology can help enable that success in more powerful ways than we're currently accomplishing as a school. So we'll see that tonight as we begin and end everything in IT with a vision of student success. As you look at this slide, and as all subsequent slides, you'll see in the upper right-hand corner, right, point to all three here, a reference to where in the IT assessment each particular slide is referring to. So if you really want to look at that 165-page document, this will help you understand which pieces are being referred to. Let me begin with a story. This is Leo, and I first met Leo when he was 8 years old, and I was his soccer coach. And I would continue to coach Leo through high school. And despite everything I taught him, Leo became an extraordinary soccer player. He was so good, in fact, that he was selected for the Olympic Development Program, which chooses youth from around the country to be potential members of the U.S. men's and women's national teams. He'd go to competitions around the country, even in middle school, to be recruited by college and professional scouts. But unfortunately for Leo, his dreams of becoming a professional soccer player ended with an injury. Leo is no longer pursuing that, but he is pursuing a degree here at the College of Lake County, and he is a member of the CLC soccer team. Before I came here to work, I would watch Leo at his soccer games here, and I would talk to his parents. Leo is a first-generation student, and his parents told me about the difference that this place was making in Leo's life. It was transformative for him, they said, and as a result of being transformative for him, it was transformative for them as a family. Leo was certainly somebody who influenced me throughout my life as a strong leader and continued to influence me with what this place was doing for him. And he encouraged me to look into working at this place whenever I could. At the same time that I was considering coming here and talking to Leo and his family, I came across this statistic, which shows the graduation rate of students who come here. And while it's been increasing over the years, it's still at 28% and has room to grow. Leo needs to be part of that 28%. Leo's family needs him to be part of that 28%. And I need him to be part of that 28%. I know that technology can make a difference for students like Leo and for others who come here to not only be in that 28%, but to make that 28% a much larger number than it is today. Let me tell you a second story. You may recognize this guy. This is a 1988 picture of Bill Gates. And in 1988, Bill Gates would come to Chicago 4 times a year to talk to the Chicago Association of Microcomputer Professionals, which I was a member of. At that time, Bill was an awkward, gangly guy who was focused in on how his products could be sold to individuals and corporations to make a difference for productivity. But perhaps the best thing that happened to Bill Gates was that he met Melinda French, who eventually became Melinda Gates, and along with other investors, helped turn this Bill Gates into this Bill Gates. A Bill Gates who understands that his money can be used in powerful ways, and that technology is not so much something that you bolt on to things in the world, as something that you build in to things in the world. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation understands that technology is the key driver to solving the world's problems, like a solution for malaria, a way to find potable water in areas where it can't be found, and a way to improve post-secondary success. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is focused on serving students like Leo, first-generation students who have struggled traditionally getting through college and leveraging technology to help them be successful. The Gates Foundation also funds Achieving the Dream to a large degree. Achieving the Dream focuses in on students like Leo and other disadvantaged students to help them achieve their academic, personal, and economic dreams. Again, through the wide use of technology. But we're just not looking at trends here in terms of the Gates Foundation. If you look at how technology is transforming our world today, and you looked at the top 5 market capitalized companies in the world, they are all either technology companies or companies who are able to leverage technology in a unique way to differentiate themselves from the competition and to own their selected market. If you look at this list, there are no energy companies on this list. There are no manufacturing companies on this list. We have truly entered into the information age. And it's here to stay for quite a while. But we're not a corporation. We're a higher education institution. And so if you look at the Aspen Institute, 5 organizations that have won that coveted prize, I took time to talk to the CIOs at each of these organizations and tried to understand what they knew about technology and its use in terms of higher education and student success. And their response was typically to that of Paul Bishop, the CIO of Santa Barbara City College. When I asked him, what is the role of technology in higher education? He laughed, and then he said, IT is higher education. From the way we deliver our classes, to the way we support our students, to the way we leverage our data to achieve funding. IT is higher education, he said. But we're not yet an Aspen Award-winning college. We are an Achieving the Dream college. And if you look at Achieving the Dream's Integrated Planning and Advising for Student Success Initiative, all 26 organizations that received a grant from that part of the organization were focusing on technology-exclusive projects. Technology is making a difference in higher education, but more importantly, it's making a difference in student success. And that's where we need to be focused. But it's just not market trends and my own personal experience that I relied on for this assessment. I did a great amount of primary research, spending 85 hours of interview time with students, with faculty, with staff, with peer community colleges in the Midwest, and with the 5 Aspen Award-winning colleges. And I also spent time reading through the student employee surveys that this college has conducted, all to help drive insight outside in into what we as an IT organization need to be. But no amount of input is sufficient on itself. It needs to be placed into a model and a structure in which it can be leveraged, made sense of, and acted upon. And so I want to introduce you to a model I use to understand how technology and information technology makes a difference in organizations. At the bottom layer of this model is what I call functional sufficiency. That's the old vision of technology as something you buy and you bolt on to help achieve what it is you want to accomplish as an organization. And there are 3 constituents we have who have the need for functional sufficiency. As I said, this assessment both begins with and ends with a focus on student success. And so we're going to begin by focusing in on students and how technology helps them be successful. If you look at why students come to the College of Lake County, they may not know it, but their job to be done is to have their lives transformed by this place, just like Leo is. That job to be done can be broken down into 6 separate jobs. And each one of these jobs helps the student get from discovering this place, to discovering what they want to do at this place, to actually accomplishing it. And then starting all over again so that the next generation of students can have an easier and more successful go of it. We took every one of these jobs to be done and understood that beneath them lie a series of subcategories. Each of these subcategories help to define what that job to be done is all about. And then we took each subcategory and looked at all the technology in use throughout the college and mapped them to each other so that we understand one of three things. That the technology we have is either something that has a gap in it, and we need to get more of it, or fill that gap, or more often, we'd see that we would have a number of solutions in place which overlapped each other, which maybe opened up an opportunity to remove redundancy of solutions, not just to drive out cost, but to drive out complexity and to drive out confusion for the users of that technology. And then what we did is we took every one of those solutions and we assessed it against 12 questions around functional sufficiency to make sure that it really was meeting the need of students, and another dozen questions around operational excellence, which I'll get to in just a bit. So this is a rather fulsome assessment that we're talking about. You can see just when thinking about students that we had 49 of the total 179 recommendations focused in on students and their success in the use of technology at this functional sufficiency layer. Well, of course, students are not our only constituent. They're our most important. But next come faculty. Faculty are the ones who are the human face of the institution. They're the ones who transform lives. And they're the ones that our students interact with. And just like students, faculty have jobs to be done. And just like with students, we took every one of these jobs to be done and understood the subcategories that make up that job, and then mapped the technology in use in the college and assessed it against its functional sufficiency and operational excellence. And then we looked at staff, who help our students and our faculty achieve the jobs that they see, leading to student success. And again, there's a number of jobs to be done for staff. Every one of those jobs to be done can be broken down into subcategories. Every subcategory mapped to the technologies we use, and every one of those assessed for functional sufficiency and operational excellence. Again, a lot of recommendations coming from this fundamental look at technology in service of our constituents achieving their jobs to be done. But above functional sufficiency, there's a layer I call operational excellence, which not only looks at whether we have the products in-house that people need, but how well we operate those products in order to achieve the needs of those individuals. It talks about, are we able to train people so that they can use the product efficiently and effectively? Do we have the support so that when things go bump in the night, these folks can get past their roadblocks and continue to make progress? Do we have accessibility so they can not only get to it from wherever they need to, but so that those individuals with disabilities are able to engage in that technology solution as well? There are 5 such operational excellence categories that we can apply to each product. And there are also 3 ways of working that deal with operational excellence as well. Do we manage our projects and our processes efficiency and take out all the excess? Do we look at cost of operation and try and drive costs out of the organization? And do we look at architecture and integration and find ways for the remaining products to work well with each other so our constituents have a seamless experience and their data is able to be consistent from solution to solution? Most IT organizations spend their time on what I call the IT treadmill. New solutions come in, they work to get implemented with operational excellence, and then because of the churn of the IT industry, new solutions come out and you start all over again. But high-performing organizations do more than just stay on the IT treadmill. High-performing organizations understand that technology can be a partner in mission with an organization. And that requires an IT organization to look at how we consult side by side with our constituents, living their lives and understanding it so that we can understand how to best implement technology to make a difference. Those organizations work at innovations that help to achieve the success of those constituents. But the few organizations I've been privileged to be a part of are more than just a partner in mission. They understand technology can be a driver of mission. And as I said, this assessment begins and ends with student success, The very first part of being a driver of mission is to understand what constituent success means and to be driven by it yourself. With that in mind, you can then move on to understanding how technology needs to be like the air we breathe in terms of strategy, involved in every aspect of the college's strategy, not just the bolt-on, but built into that strategy. And looking at how we partner, not just with technology organizations who can help us leverage that technology better when we have a strategic relationship with them, but also those schools who feed us and those schools whom we feed, so that all three partnerships are being leveraged by our smart use of technology. When I look at the IT organization, there are two major pivots I think we need to make. One is becoming a more consultative organization, getting outside of our offices and living with our students, living with our faculty, and living the life of our staff to understand viscerally what it is they're trying to get done every day and to find creative ways to use technology to get that done. The second thing we need to pivot on is to become entirely student success focused. Too many of our goals in the past have been about the technology and aren't predicated with the terms, in order to achieve student success, we will ... Saying that makes a difference in what we do, changes our priorities, and helps us really make a difference for students like Leo and his family. Of course, there are plenty of other things we need to do as an organization as well, besides these two pivots. And I'll get to some of these in just a minute. But it's not entirely fair to point at these opportunities and say that's what we need to do. We need to look at home as well and figure out, how do we get the IT organization to be a high-performing organization? How do we get the most out of who we are and who we're privileged to have in our team? There are 6 dimensions I looked at and talked about with the IT organization. I only want to focus in on 2 here. So there's the leadership of the organization, the culture of the organization, the way we're motivated, the space in which we sit, but also the way we use and leverage our budget, and the way we use and leverage our staff. And I want to talk about those 2 now. When we look at budget, as I mentioned before, this college has a number of functionally sufficient technology solutions in place. In fact, sometimes I think we have too many of these in place. We have redundant solutions in a number of different areas in the college. First and foremost, we need to start working to remove some of this technology, to get rid of what is called technology debt, to enable the college to have more funds to focus in on what really counts, students and their success. Now, besides driving out this cost, we need to leverage those products that remain much more effectively and get the most that we can out of them. Oftentimes we implement them and use 10 to 50% of what's possible. We need to get 90% out of them. But, as I said, because technology is involved in almost everything that colleges do now, the belief that we can just continue to put new technology into the organization without that having any impact on the technologists who support it doesn't take into account the fact that we have a lot of operational effectiveness and excellence that we need to adjust. What happens when you don't provide enough support is that organizations start to pull back from layers like operational excellence and focus not so much on training and accessibility, but more and more so on support. That's not a bad thing, but it has consequences. And it doesn't allow us to get to more important things like driving the cost of operation and processes in the organization to much more efficient levels. Let me talk a little bit about staffing. In like manner to budgeting, there's a lot of ways we can leverage our existing resources more effectively. We are currently staffed in our support areas to really focus in on the peak times of student needs, those few weeks before and after the beginning of the term. And it's important that we're there and that we turn all hands on deck towards students during that time. But during the other parts of the year, when there isn't quite as much demand for support, are we leveraging those staff members as effectively in driving projects and the other work we need to get done? And we need to make sure that we are finding ways to keep people engaged, to keep them growing, to keep them making a difference for our students and their experience here. We also need to find ways to start automating many of the processes in IT. That will allow us to have repeatable experiences for our customers so that we can deliver the same quality on time, every time. But more importantly, what that does is it frees staff members up to focus in on higher order work, or that repetitive work that the processes can automate. But that won't solve everything for the college in terms of becoming higher value in terms of technology. I looked at the 5 community colleges most proximate to us in the state of Illinois. And I looked at the size of their IT organization based on a survey that was done this past October. And then I compared it to the number of students that are at each college based on ICCB's 2018 data book. And I came up with a ratio of IT to students. I think that's the right ratio if IT is going to be focused in on students and their success. That's the right metric. But as you see from it, there's a significant difference between the ratio of IT to students at CLC and at these 5 comparator colleges. In fact, if we took the average of those colleges, the IT organization here would have to grow 25 more people from its current 43 to achieve the average. And we don't want to be average. We want to be in achieving the dream college. We want to be an Aspen Award-winning college. I'm not asking for 25 more people. I'm asking for half of that, 13. Because it does make a difference to our students. Technology can't be ignored. It can't be bolted on. It has to be built in to make a difference. And this doesn't even account for project management offices, which many of these IT organizations or other colleges have. Those numbers are not included in the IT size numbers I have here. These organizations can be anywhere from 2 to 5 additional people reporting into IT or some other part of the organization to help make sure that projects that are cross-disciplinary get implemented efficiently and effectively. So we're leveraging 90% of the value of the products we put in, not just 10 to 50%. So the end result of all of this is 179 recommendations that all begin with the phrase that it is recommended that CLC ... It doesn't say it is recommended that IT ... because I hope you start to understand that technology is a decision the entire college needs to own. IT can help facilitate it, but it is not the sole actor. An example of one of these recommendations is one you can see here. They're rather substantial. They begin with the recommendation that in order to achieve some sort of a goal, such as students comprehensively researching and choosing a path, that the college do the following thing. But of course, having 179 of anything, let alone 179 substantial things, makes it almost impossible to begin to do any one of them. So I distilled all 179 into 19 statements of action. It's not important that you read through them here if you really want to. They're in that 165-page assessment. But I'll just slowly scroll through them here to help you understand that these are things that will impact students and their success. The next steps for us as a college with regards to the IT assessment is for me to present a similar presentation to the Administrators Council this Friday, and for me to help the Administrators Council select prioritization around what we will and won't do. Obviously, this is just a list. A strategy requires an aligned list and a prioritized list. We have yet to get there. But then the step after that is in March to obtain budget and implement those things we have chosen to prioritize. It's this last piece, implementation, that is the difference maker. Because there are many companies out there that understand that technology is important. But the top market capitalization companies have actually done it. There are many colleges that aspire to be an Aspen Award-winning institution, but there are only 5 of them, who, like Paul Bishop from Santa Barbara City College, that understand that IT is higher ed and act on it. There are many achieving the dream colleges out there, but there are only 26 of them that have understood that to get the grant from achieving the dream, they need to have technology projects that make a difference and to act on it. This acting on it not only makes a difference for this organization, but more importantly makes a difference for students like Leo and their family and me in understanding that technology is the way of the future. Thank you. So I don't know if there are any questions, but I'm more than happy to entertain them now. Entertain rather than answer.
Any questions?
So I imagine that you're going to be, once more steps are taken, associating budget costs and deductions to the plan.
Correct. So as we go through this budget cycle, we're identifying areas for budget takeout, as well as a number of initiatives to add based on what we prioritize as a college and what our goals are in terms of leveraging technology to make a difference for students and their success.
Did you do any of that ratio with any of those Aspen colleges?
So I was able to have a 1-hour conversation with them, and because I don't have the same relationship I have with them as I do with other colleges, I did not feel it appropriate to say, send me your org chart. I was more interested in what is it that they have done with technology that makes them great candidates for achieving for Aspen award-winning colleges, and that's where I spent my time.
Any other questions?
I like organizational excellence.
Okay.
Driving the cost out of the organization. It's not the program of the month, it's a constant thing that we need to do in everyone's mindset. How can we drive cost? Long cost, short-term cost, we're right about the operational excellence.
Yeah, there's a lot of vigilance we can apply to the leverage of technology here, and there's great opportunity for us to work in that manner.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we'll move on. Thank you very much. That was very enlightening.